So there you go. Um, where do I start? Yeah,
I'm
I would.
Aubree.
I'm sorry.
I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist working in the state of Colorado.
No, yeah, okay. I was gonna actually start with our history, our connection, but
Okay,
like
that works
yeah,
too.
that's fine. We were in the same cohort for our master's degree, and I don't know why I'm looking down. I should probably be looking at the camera. Um, when I was with Barbara, she was right in front of me, so I could just look right at her. But
Oh, nice. I wish
yeah,
I could be right in front of you, but alas, I am across the Pacific Ocean,
yeah.
sitting in 40-degree weather.
Oh, is it?
It
You don't
snowed
look
yesterday.
dressed for the cold.
Oh, well, someone said it was sunny today, so that gave me the that, I have that appointment after.
Sure.
So,
So 40 degrees is is sunny, warm weather for you guys.
they consider if the sun is out to be warm weather. Whether or not the temperature matches that is a completely different story.
That's true. Okay. Um. So yeah, where were we? Yeah. So in the same cohort, and I think you're the only one that I kept in consistent touch with since we graduated.
I'm
Uh,
crying to you for all the time.
I'm sorry.
I said that's because I come crying to you for help all the time,
No,
or just for I'm need a feedback that I'm not completely unethical in practice.
yeah, just a little unethical is fine.
Just a little unethical.
Um. So yeah, the main thing I wanted to do with this podcast is kind of highlight new therapist experience. 'Cause my experience has been not the best. So I'm really curious about your experience. Have you
Okay.
enjoyed the? So when did we graduate? 2018. So the process of getting licensed, and then after getting licensed, the process of getting into practice. I guess it's been 5 years. So well, actually, this
I
month,
know.
yeah, it's been 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. I actually have been telling my clients that when we do intakes, I'm like, so I've been practicing therapy for 5 years now. So, I mean, I'm no Barbara, but
That's cool. Yeah. So what's your 5 years been like? Give me a rundown.
it's been interesting.
Mhm.
So, you know, graduating and then going into my first position as an intensive in-home therapist for two vastly different organizations was what I correlate what intern doctors go through in the ER.
Mhm.
Uh, just because the amount of hours that were devoted to spending time with my clients and the type of situations I had to address, very trauma forward, um, working closely with the Department of Health, welfare services.
Mhm.
Um, I worked, we were subcontracted for CAMHD, Child and Adolescent Mental Health Division.
Mhm.
And so working with kids that were stuck in the judicial system, it gave me a lot of great experience. I would have to say, and I mean no disrespect at all, that going from that intensive type of work, very hands-on, in-person, one-on-one, even through COVID, and then transitioning over here into Colorado and doing remote individual therapy, the cases are drastically different on the spectrum
Mhm.
of
How
trauma.
so?
So, in when I was an intensive in home, I worked with, when kids were pulled from the home and then also reunifications. My very first session ever as a practicing therapist was very unique. It's the story that I lead with in interviews sometimes, just to show, like, from day one, this is what I had to deal with.
Mhm.
Um, and then my first client here was processing someone who was managing through a breakup, um, which is hard to do, but it was just a different type of therapy, I guess you can say.
Mhm.
So, um, you know, the company I work for currently is nationwide, and so there are practicing therapists in almost all of the states. I believe like it's in 40, 45 or 46 states that
Wow.
the company exists in.
Yeah, that's rather large.
It is rather large. And so I work 100% remote from my home. And so that's also been interesting to develop rapport with clients, in that type of format. And the company I currently work for appears to be supportive, because the transitional period was challenging
Yeah,
moving out here. And they were very supportive of, when it came time to onboard clients, to stagger them so I wasn't hit with 30 clients all in one week, which would have been bananas.
yeah.
Um, I've noticed that working for a larger company, the paperwork is a lot more mainstreamed.
Okay.
Notes or have templates, which is nice.
Very good. Very good.
So it's just filling in, the spaces. Whereas my DAP notes from being an intensive in-home therapist were like little novellas
Yeah,
because stuff had to be documented. So,
I
and then,
remember that.
yeah, it's like, what do you say? What don't you say? And here it is so vague. It's like, you know, process triggers for anxiety, addressed utilization of coping skills, the end.
Okay. I like that style a lot more. But
It's so brief.
I wanted to go back a little bit. You were talking about it sounds like we had similar experiences moving from working with organizations, facilities, because I did a lot of work in facilities, Salvation Army, drug treatment, and all that. Sounds like
Mm-hmm.
the way I experienced it was like the stakes are a lot lower. Seeing clients on the private side, where it's like,
Yeah,
and I thought it sounded like you conveyed the same thing. Like the clients were much less intense on the trauma side, or because I would
yeah,
work with the clients I used to work with in before getting licensed was all like childhood trauma, childhood sex abuse, all this stuff going on, and just really heavy stuff. And like nowadays, it's like I have stress at work, and I need help managing my stress, and it's a lot I don't know, easier to manage. Is that what you were kind of getting at?
Yes and no. I mean, so like as an intensive in-home therapist, it was more hours spent with per client.
No.
And so even though I had maybe 6 to 8 clients, I had 5-hour sessions. So like
Oh,
2.5 hour sessions a week. But that was, so it was working really closely with the clients, a lot, definitely more intimate in setting. With this format, I have currently 34 clients a week. And it's a lot because, I, even though I have a 2-hour lunch break that I've scheduled for myself, um, my afternoons I work from 2 to 7 with 5 back-to-backs. And I'd have to say, after done with work, I don't want to talk to anybody.
I know the feeling. I do that. I come home and my wife is like trying to tell me about her day, and I'm like, I can't. I really want to listen to you. I really
Yeah,
want to
I know.
listen to how your day was, but I'm so
Yep,
in my
my
kids.
ears are tapped out.
Yeah, like attention. I feel like people don't view attention as like a finite resource, like a bucket,
Hmm.
your bucket of patience and like or attention or giving someone your um yeah, I guess your full attention. And like at the end of our workday, I feel like that's empty uh, for the most part,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't
it's a
really
good thing.
know how to fill it when I get home, so I can have extra for the kids and the wife.
Sometimes like one good practice I have is, as long as the weather's good, after my last session, while the sun is still out, I'll go out and take a walk, um, you know, and just kind of like decompress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, because, obviously I can't isolate myself the whole time. And then I find like if I take those few moments to decompress, I'm able to at least be somewhat present. Um,
Yeah,
if I have to be, you know.
yeah. Well, this is like you're talking like because you don't have. you don't have people at home, right? It's,
I have a cat and I've got some birds.
I was
I don't
wondering.
have them, but I have people in my community that I connect with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
A lot of the times I've already kind of given them all the heads up, like I'm not going to be as present. I probably only see um, other people outside of like going, to the gym, which I don't talk to anybody there. But community and friends, maybe twice a week. Sundays are one of them because I don't practice on Sundays. And then probably one day out of the week, I'll have dinner with a friend and just to get away from work and be able to have socializing conversations. But
Mm.
then I also have to remind myself not to talk like a therapist when I'm with them.
Is that hard to make that transition?
Yes and no. It really just depends if they are utilizing free therapeutic services or not.
Sure. No,
So,
sometimes they come to you and
yeah.
want want services from you. Okay.
Well, they want to talk, and I mean, as a friend, that's what we do. We vent to each other. But as a therapist, it's hard to sometimes be present while my friend vents, about whatever.
Hmm.
A lot of it is, well, no, I can't even say that because everybody's got problems. So,
Sure. Yeah.
you
Okay.
know, I was going to say a lot of it may be a little mundane, but then I just thought about my last two friends who came to me with some pretty fucked up shit. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
that's the unprofessional part. I
We'll
don't
edit
think
it
like,
out. It's okay. I won't.
okay.
I won't edit it out. I always like I don't know if you listened to the last one, but I told Barbara I would edit the part where she introduces herself and put it at the beginning. I didn't do that. I just left it. So.
I mean, as a practicing therapist, I tell all my clients, I'm very transparent. I'm not the type of therapist that is like looking down and I'm coming from this like, higher place. I'm not. I'm a
Mm,
person who's coming from experiences that very well could be the same reasons why they're in session.
yeah.
Um, when my clients use the word normal, I always kind of correct them and say there is no normal.
Yeah.
Everybody got something that they've been working through, and life is always full of challenges. So I walk with you. I don't walk above you. I walk with you. And you're allowed to talk however you want and say whatever you want in session when you're in session with me.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that helps them feel real comfortable.
That's what
I,
I'm told.
well, I have a quick question. Well, not a quick question, but because you had a lot of roots in North Shore, right? So
Yes.
I'm wondering, like, you go into a place, newly licensed therapist, but you're also new to the area. So
Hmm.
how has that experience been as opposed to like if you were starting in North Shore where you used to live? Like, is it extra challenges?
Actually, I would have to say it's been pretty easy because when you live in a small community, everybody knows who you are. So there's that kind of situation that you have to navigate, between being just a person in the community and then being a professional. Here, having the anonymity, I
Hmm.
guess, is better for me because I feel like I have the space to be myself outside of work and not have to be conscious of who I might run into at the grocery store or a restaurant. It's vastly different. Where I live, because I live deep in the mountains, but most of my clients are at least an hour away, in a completely different town, and so and then the referral system through this company that I'm working for, if there's an empty spot on my schedule, they put somebody there. So, for example, last week on Tuesday, I had 6 intakes in a row.
No.
And yeah, so it's um, it's interesting,
Hmm.
but I find it to be easier because there's that space, if that makes sense. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, Shore is a tighter knit community, and um, or even Hawaii in general, is a very much smaller place. And so there was oftentimes I would run into clients, when I would be off of work. And um, I guess that whole anonymity part was a little bit more something I had to address there versus here.
Yeah. So the running into clients in North Shore was was that an awkward thing? Like, were you like, oh, do I say hi or do I ignore them?
So it depends on the client. I'm not going to lie. There were some, that were court ordered, and so I wasn't their favorite person to see.
Hmm.
Um, and so, depending on the client, I would either, I always in session, as a practice, we say to them, in public, because to protect confidentiality, I may make eye contact with you, but I will not acknowledge unless you um, initiate. And so, so that's kind of my practice in general is like when we do the intakes and we start to get to know each other, I do tell all my clients even here that if I run into you in public to protect confidentiality, I'll make eye contact, but I won't initiate a greeting unless you initiate it. And then it'll be at your disposal who you want me to be. Like
Sure.
I could be an acquaintance. You can say I'm your therapist. You can just say my friend, whatever is comfortable. However, there were a couple of clients like in Hawaii that, like I said, I wasn't their favorite person. So if I saw them, I might duck into another aisle.
Sure. Okay. That kind of that makes a decent segue to kind of bridges with the last interview with Barbara, talking about technology and because it sounds like it's a little bit more beneficial for you in the sense that it helps create that distance you're talking about, where you don't have
Hmm.
to like, well, not create that distance because the distance is already there, but being able to see
Right.
clients online um, kind of keeps you in that an anonymity space.
Anonymity.
Anonymity. Yeah, I have a hard time saying that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, um, what are your thoughts on the technological aspect and if you think it's a net positive or a net negative?
Well, um, so in 2020, when everything went remote, I was hugely against it. 100%. I hated it. Mostly because a lot of what I did before was to read, body language and behavior and observe,
Hmm.
which is easier to do in person than remotely. Remotely, all I have are facial expressions, and a lot of times other people are on their cell phones. Uh, but the give and take is that now I am afforded the luxury of being able to work from home. And that gives me back some of my quality time, versus having to drive to the office. It also adds a little bit more of that separation. I can almost guarantee that most of my clients, if they passed me in the street, would not recognize me
Hmm.
in person. So that I appreciate. I mean, there's always going to be technical difficulties like what we experienced earlier today,
Hmm.
where speakers don't work or um, sorry, I'm getting a little cold. Where speakers don't work or Wi-Fi or signal isn't strong, and that can that can be challenging. But for the most part, it's about the talk. I mean, I
Hmm.
am going to be moving into as I open up my own practice, which is slowly getting off the ground. I
Hmm.
am going to be moving into something that's called walk and talk therapy,
Oh.
which is popular out here because of the environment. And I'm really excited about it. But, that's going to be returning to meeting in person, which I feel is also beneficial because it is a more intimate setting. And I feel like people can be more vulnerable when you have that. On this kind of format, people have a tendency to kind of hide behind the screen in a way where
Sure.
they're not as vulnerable. I mean, all it takes is a push of a button to disconnect a session. So,
Sure.
and that's happened sometimes where it gets to a place of vulnerability in a session and they're not able to handle. And so, boop, they're gone And I always follow up with a phone call, but
No,
that
so
is
you've
like
had people like just disconnect in the middle. Like I'm done. I actually
kind
haven't
of, yeah.
haven't had that before. That's gotta be a interesting experience.
Well, I always follow up, so it's not like I entirely let them run away.
Sure.
And I like, my practice is to be transparent. So when I notice that someone's struggling, I'll acknowledge that I see it and what can I do to help.
Mhm. Okay. Um, this is gonna be a more succinct interview. So I'm gonna move on to the wrapping up stage. I want to give you, if you would like to, an opportunity like a self promotion. So if if how would you, sorry?
I said I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, you have like a website, right? I mean, do you want to direct people to a website?
Well, almost, but it will be hopefully by the next few days. I need a more tech savvy person to just review it to
Sure.
see how it looks, and then I can publish it. But the website is elementaltherapycocolorado.com. And it's still, as I tell people, like the business is open, but the furniture's not in the building yet. Soon.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else for the upcoming therapists of the world that you want to tell them, warn them about, encourage them?
Well, there's a lot of people out there that need help. And at first, I was a little intimidated about the number of therapists that were out there. But what I realize is that there's an even greater population that needs support. And I think that whatever your modality is or whichever way you have a passion for connecting with people, just go with it. But it's most important for you to find the niche that you're most comfortable with. And that's been something that's been really interesting for me to navigate. A perfect example is I honestly wouldn't mind returning to intensive in-home therapy,
Hmm.
because I felt that I was really making a difference with the families that I worked with. This
Hmm.
format is, it is personal, but at the same time, it's a little less personal because sometimes it can be venting,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's also still a job, and that's important too.
That's
We
it.
all got to make money.
I'm surprised to hear that you would want to go back to intensive in home. I mean, I think I understand your reasoning, but I just like I don't think I would ever go back to working with like substance abuse. I feel like this is it for me.
Yeah, well, I think it's more like, working with the children aspect, working with child and welfare services and helping families reunify.
Hmm.
Currently, I only have like two cases that are like that, but they are the ones that I feel like I'm being the most impactful with. The other place I like to work is in empowering individuals, to overcome their challenges and to find the strength within to be able to move forward and know that they can handle it. Um, they're not alone. I'm like I said, I walk with them. And so it's just really important. The one unfortunate thing I have kind of run across is that I am passionate about doing this work. And there are some therapists out there that aren't. And when I get like transfers from those clients, it's really important for me to convey that, I genuinely want to be here for them as
Hmm.
much as I can in session. Um, yeah, and it's not just a diagnosis. It's getting to the root of the problem is key.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
just
a little bit of I guess a side note, but working with a group practice has also made me realize that there are bad therapists out there.
there are
That's
bad
all
there.
I'll say about that. Um,
Yeah, kind of like, are you sure therapy is the route you want to go?
yeah, I don't know
And
how
it seems,
people end up in this field sometimes. Like, you're
yeah,
supposed to care about people, right? It's like
got to care about people.
that's the first thing. No,
Number one,
but yeah,
not the the person.
true. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I think we're
Absolutely, it's fun. My pleasure always.
yeah, you got some good insights from you. Um, and is your oh, let me end first.